Hi, my name is Zach Simmons, and this is my Chicago Bears Journal. So right now is week 2 of NFL free agency. The Bears made quite a bit of a splash. Not a lot of big names, not a lot of starters. We've got a lot of backups, a lot of depth players. And I know Bears Twitter's kind of line up a little bit. A lot of Bears fans are a little upset about some of the guys we picked up. First rounders, Artie Burns and Markevius Mingo. A lot of people saying, well, why in the world would they pick up those guys? Those guys better not start. Here's the thing. For a lot of those guys that we've got in the last week, all those guys are pretty much just depth. Jordan Lucas, I believe we just got to be the backup safety. Could he try to take that job from Deion Bush? Definitely. There also could be a chance we're going to go for another safety. We might be waiting for Tony Jefferson's price to go down a little bit more. We could be drafting someone. We have a second-round pick. So that can definitely happen. Artie Burns, that just solidifies to me anyway that Kevin Tolliver will be the starting corner opposite of Kyle Fuller next season. Tolliver looked good. I mean, he looked really good the last couple games. We benched Amukamara for him. We were that sold on Kevin Tolliver that we benched Amukamara, given Amukamara really wasn't that good. Not last season anyway. But Tolliver actually looked good. He did a very, very good job covering Devontae Adams. Came close to getting a pick off of Aaron Rodgers. That's hard to do, especially when covering Devontae Adams. So I think if we wanted to get a starting corner, I don't think we would go out and grab Trey Roberson. I don't think we would grab Artie Burns. Both of those guys, I believe, are depth. Roberson might be able to compete for that job against Tolliver, but it tells me that they're not focused too much on cornerback right now. It tells me that they're sold with Tolliver being the guy. So will you see the Bears draft a corner in the second round? I highly doubt it. Maybe 5th round or something like that. 6th round, maybe. But I don't see us drafting a cornerback in the second round. But Artie Burns, just depth. Markevius Mingo, just depth. He's basically taking Aaron Lynch's spot at outside linebacker. He's just a rotational piece. He's not someone to be set there. I mean, we already have our edge rush, and I'll cover that here just in a second. But all these guys we've picked up, even Ifedi, they're backups. These guys are good depth pieces. And that's what I love what Pace is doing right now. He's grabbing guys that have a high ceiling, guys that could be something. Ifedi, Markevius Mingo, and Artie Burns, all three of them were former first-round picks. Teams saw that they had potential. And to be honest, they still do have potential. I know that for Burns and Mingo, they've had that bust label on them. But this is what Pace does. Pace likes to grab some washed-out players and say, you know what? A lot of teams thought you had a high ceiling when you were drafted. Maybe, just maybe, you can do that here. So I'll give you a small 1-year deal. Let's just see what you do. This is what Pace does. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. He tried this with Victor Cruz, with Ruben Randall. Tried it with Aguayo. Those didn't work out. But it did work out for guys like Prince Amukamara, guys like Tracy Porter. That were with the Bears for more than just one season. Actually lasted past training camp. So, say what you want to about these guys, but these guys are just depth pieces. And if they're just depth pieces, those are some really good moves. Now, we don't know if we're going to see them week 1 or not, but you have to give Pace credit. These guys are cheap. We're not overpaying for people. Yes, we're grabbing guys that have that bust label, but that doesn't mean that you just need to stay away from them. They deserve to be on a team. We'll just see if the Bears are a right fit for them. But the 3 guys I want to talk about are the 3 biggest moves the Bears have made thus far. I have them all in order as well. The first, Jimmy Graham, picked him up. I believe it's a 2-year deal worth $16 million. That's kind of a signing bonus. Which honestly, there's an opt-out, kind of. All of his guaranteed money is just $3 million. It's all guaranteed in 2020. What that means is it's essentially a first It's a 1-year deal worth $3 million. So if he doesn't own up to what Pace thinks he might be, we can just cut him. No, no strings attached. $3 million. We don't owe him anything in 2021 unless we decide to keep him around. Then obviously we will have to pay him that money. Second was a 5-year deal worth $70 million to Robert Quinn. Now, this is one thing that I didn't really like at first, but after doing some research, after really taking a look at what Quinn's done, I love it, and I'll explain here in a second why. And then, of course, the last thing I want to talk about today is the big trade. Yes, the Bears actually pulled a trade. I said we would. I said we would trade for a quarterback using our 4th-round comp pick. I was hoping it was going to be Dalton. Instead, it happens to be Nick Foles. So I'll talk a little bit about why I think that can be a really good trade and also why that might not be so good. So let's start with Jimmy Graham. I haven't met one person who liked this deal. A lot of it was the money. He's tied for the 6th. This is the 6th biggest deal. Tied for the 6th biggest deal for tight ends. Tied with Trey Burton. I think the most is I'm not really upset that we got Jimmy Graham. I'm more upset that we passed on guys like Eric Ebron and Vance McDonald. And Ebron's even getting a cheaper deal than Graham. But here's the thing about Graham. Graham has not had a 1,000-yard season since he was with the Saints. So you can take a look at that and say, well, he hasn't had a 1,000-yard season in so many years. But he's also been on 2 teams that don't have a good fit for him. He fits the New Orleans Saints. They love utilizing their tight ends. They have plays specifically for the tight ends. Only a handful of teams do this. The Panthers did this with Greg Olsen. The Baltimore Ravens do this with Mark Andrews and Hayden Hurst. And then, of course, the Chiefs do this with Travis Kelce. And then don't forget George Kittle there with San Fran either. Seattle and Green Bay, the tight end's basically a secondary thing. Wilson doesn't use his tight ends too often. Aaron Rodgers doesn't use his tight ends too often. Basically, they just look at the tight ends being a really good target in the red zone. And Graham did that for Seattle. Had 10 touchdowns his final year in Seattle. But he also had just above 500 yards receiving. So how can that happen? Well, it's because they looked at him in the end zone. That's about it. And the same is true for Aaron Rodgers. He loves Graham in the red zone. Other than that, he's just a security blanket. Just a little dump off pass here, dump off pass there. He's not really looking at it. Graham's not going down the field too often. Every once in a while, you might see Aaron Rodgers passing a 20-yard pass to Jimmy Graham. Otherwise, it's a secondary option. But not with Chicago. That's not what Pace wants. Pace has always wanted the tight end to be the factor. That's how it was with Zach Miller. That's what he was hoping it was going to be with Adam Shaheen and Trey Burton. Those have not worked out just yet. There's still a chance, but the writing's kind of on the wall that those 2 guys might not be back. They might not even be back in 2020. There's been some reports, I don't know how accurate these reports are, but that we're shopping Trey Burton, which I don't see really any team trading more than a 6th-round pick for Trey Burton, if anything at all. But Graham has a chance to really do something. This is, ever since he left the Saints, this is the only team that has the scheme that fits him. So maybe, just maybe, we see something new with Jimmy Graham, that he's back to the same form that he was with the Saints. There's definitely a chance of that. But the problem was, I didn't like his catching last year in Green Bay. He dropped a lot. He looked done. He looked like there was nothing left. I was surprised that he signed with anyone, let alone us. I figured that he was going to retire. But Pace decided to put his money where his mouth is and said, I knew we had something in you when I brought you to the Saints. Let's see what we get. Let's see if you can do the same thing here. So is Graham done? Chances are yes. Chances are he's not going to work out. But there's definitely a chance that maybe, just maybe, he can do something. And here's the thing. It's really low risk when you think about it. If he doesn't work out, it costs us $3 million. Yes, I would love to spend that $3 million elsewhere to a tight end that has a higher chance of working out. But a 3-year deal really isn't awful. It's not great. It's not ideal, but it's not awful. So if it doesn't work out, Pace hopefully be smart enough to just say, okay, you know what? I tried. That didn't work. Let's try again. But I think there's still a very good chance. Definitely if Trey Burton's on the way out, we need to have a 2 tight end system. That's one of the reasons we got Adam Shaheen. So I would be expecting the Bears to make a move in the second round. Who knows? We might be trading up in the draft. A lot of people say maybe we should trade down. We might trade up in the draft for a tight end. We do have 2 second-round picks, and we don't need a corner. And if we have our safety position figured out, maybe Pace doubles down and says, you know, Ifedi, he's not just a backup guard. He is going to be the starting guard. Well, then we don't really need 2 second-round picks. Maybe we trade both of them to go up in the first round and grab a tight end. That's a definite possibility. So be prepared for that. On the first night of the draft, be prepared for the Bears to be on the clock. It can definitely happen. So now the second pick that we got. So Graham, okay. Just an okay pick. I wouldn't grade it as awful. I hated it at first. But when you take a look at the 3-year deal, when you take a look that he's finally in a system that he can work with, then maybe, just maybe, this can work. Chances are it won't, but there's still that chance that it could. So right now, I would just give it an okay. It's not awful. It's definitely not great. It's just okay. It's decent. But Robert Quinn, I love this pickup with Robert Quinn. I mentioned that I didn't like it at first. I thought, you know, he's an old edge rusher. He's just not going to work out. Why would we give him a 5-year deal, let alone $70 million? What are we trying to do here? We need someone who's better than Floyd. Is he really better than Floyd? Well, if you take a look at his stats, he really is an upgrade over Floyd. A lot of people say, well, you know what? Ever since he got hurt, he hasn't been the same. Fair point. But here's the thing, though. If you take a look at his stats, his best season was back in 2013. 19 sacks. Follow that up with 10.5 sacks. This last year with Dallas was his best season since 2013. You can say, well, that's too long. 11.5 sacks. It's not an incredible amount. It's a good amount, but it's not an incredible amount. To say that he hasn't done that in a few years, whew. But here's the thing. He got hurt then in 2015. 2016, both of those years, he got hurt. Got 5 sacks and then 4 sacks. The first of those years, in 2015, he finished with 5 sacks, got hurt, missed 8 games, missed half a season. He was injured about halfway through, finished the season on the IR, did not play the last 5 or 6 games. The next year, he gets hurt again, missed 7 games, 4 sacks. So you gotta give him credit. 2 years. He was hurt for half the season. Then with his last season with the Rams, I believe he had about 8 sacks. Then he leaves, goes to Miami. If I remember correctly, they traded him to Miami, where he gets 10.5 sacks, his best season since 2014 before he got hurt. And then leaves, goes to Dallas, where he finished with 11.5 sacks, better than that year. Best year since his best year in 2013. He's on the rise. He is back, I would say. So you can't really say, well, you know what, his injuries, he hasn't been the same. Look, 19 sacks is an incredible number. It's hard for someone to top that or come close to that again. You really, really have to be good. And Robert Quinn may not be an elite pass rusher, but to have over 10 sacks in 2 straight years, that's something special. And I know that Dallas team, especially that front 7, is fantastic. It really helps when you have guys around you who can get to the quarterback. That way, you're single team rather than double teamed when you're the primary guy. So of course you can say, well, you know what? There's so much talent over there. Of course he's going to get to the quarterback. When no one's touching him, of course he's going to get to the quarterback. But we have that here in Chicago too. But the problem is Floyd couldn't even get there. Here's Floyd's stats for you. His best year was his rookie season, where he finished with about 7 sacks. Every year he has decreased in the amount of sacks. Year after, he went 4.5, then 4 sacks, then 3 sacks this last year. Career low in sacks with only 3. 1 less than Robert Quinn's worst year with 4. And you may say, well, that's not that much of a difference. Quinn missed 7 games. Floyd missed none. Floyd missed no games, and yet he only had 3 sacks. And here's the thing also. Quinn had Aaron Donald. Floyd? Akeem Hicks, okay, sure, he was hurt. Yeah, he was hurt. Khalil Mack is getting double-teamed every single time. He's getting double-teamed and getting held. Where is Floyd? If 2 guys have to stop, if one guy has to stop what he's doing and help the tackle out with Mack, that should be 1 less guy to go for Floyd. Where is Floyd? What is Floyd doing? How do you end up with 3 sacks when the guy on the opposite side is getting double-teamed? Floyd should be getting to the quarterback, or at least getting relatively close. He couldn't do that. He couldn't even get close. So now they have Quinn, who looks like he's back. I think he's back. 2 years in a row with more than 10 sacks. In 3 years, Quinn has 11.5 sacks this last season. Floyd hasn't had that in the last 3 years combined. Even with Khalil Mack on the side, even how good the defense was in 2018, Floyd finished with a mere 4 sacks. Now, what can happen if we actually had someone who's better than Floyd? We had someone who can get to the quarterback, someone like Robert Quinn. This defense can be unstoppable if all the pieces can stay healthy. Who cares who our safety is at that point? No one's going to have time to throw the ball. We have Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, Eddie Goldman, and Robert Quinn coming after you. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't step up to throw the ball deep because you have 4 guys coming at you each and every play. Robert Quinn, very, very, very good pickup. I love it. Spend the money on him. Will he be an elite pass rusher with us? Probably not. But at least we have an edge rusher who can get to the quarterback. Finally, we can get someone whose name is not Mack who can get some sacks. It's a great pickup getting Robert Quinn. Now, this trade has been the talk of the town. What are the Bears going to do with Nick Foles? And I'll try to keep this one quick. Bears trade for Nick Foles. A lot of people said at first, well, Trubisky's got his competition then. They're going to push Trubisky. Trubisky's going to be the starter. I don't think so. I think this has been Nagy's and Pace's plan since the season ended. I mean, it seems too coincidental that we decided to go for an offensive coordinator and a QB coach. Both of their only connection is with Nick Foles. And the head coach, Matt Nagy, holds the same similarity. Nick Foles. They all have that in common. Nick Foles. Laser was his offensive coordinator. Either coordinator or QB coach. I actually can't remember right now. And Foles' first stint with the Philadelphia Eagles. And of course, Joe DeFilippo was his QB coach in his second stint there in Philadelphia, where he won the Super Bowl. Matt Nagy was his QB coach who, when Andy Reid fished Foles to come back to the NFL, to come back to football. All 3 of these coaches have worked with Nick Foles. It seems too strange to me. People are saying, well, we got these guys to help out Trubisky. I don't think so. I think we got these guys from Nick Foles. I think this has been the plan. I will not be surprised if Nick Foles is a week 1 starter for the Chicago Bears. I think there will be a legit competition. And they will say, Nick, if you can beat out Trubisky, if you can show us that you're better than Mr. Trubisky, which he better be, yes, we will give you the starting job. And I think they'll tell Mitch, okay, game on. Game on. Show us you're better than Nick. If you can show us you're better than Nick, we will continue to have you as our starting quarterback. But both these guys will be on tight leashes. Probably more so on Trubisky than Nick Foles. If Nick Foles comes in, I expect never to see Trubisky ever take a snap for the Bears again. But if Trubisky ends up winning, yeah, there's a good chance they might take him out for Foles if he starts struggling again. If Foles struggles, I think they might just ride with Foles. Now, is this a good trade or not? Well, if Foles is better than Trubisky, this is a good trade. It's a 4th round comp pick. You didn't come in with this pick. We got this comp pick from losing Adrian Amos, who we really didn't want to overpay for anyway. We ended up getting Ha Clinton Dix out of it. He was a lot cheaper. So really, it's kind of a free pick. So we traded a pick that really, let's be honest, we didn't really need too much for a quarterback who could be a good starting quarterback for us in the next 2 or 3 years. And when it comes to his contract, Jacksonville paid off a lot of his dead money. Jacksonville decided to pick up. And then also with this deal, there's 2 opt-out options for Nick Foles. So he can opt out of this contract at the end of next year and at the end of 2021. He can choose to say, you know what, I don't think I really want to be here anymore. That's fantastic for him, fantastic for us. So my big problem with Nick Foles is this, and this might not even be his fault. When he is the backup, he is fantastic. He's the guy you want. When your quarterback goes down, that's the guy you want to fill in for him. But when he's a week 1 starter, it's not so much. Now, given this is the reason why it might not be his fault. He goes to the Rams, not his system whatsoever. Jeff Fisher really did not know how to utilize him. When he was a week 1 starter for the Eagles after the Super Bowl, he struggled a little bit. He wasn't awful, but you can definitely tell that he was struggling. He was without Joe DeFilippo. He left to be the offensive coordinator of Minnesota, and he was also without his offensive coordinator, Frank Reich, who became the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. And then, of course, this last year goes to the Jaguars once again. Did not have the system for Foles. Not the kind of system he likes. This system should be the system he likes. He has two coaches, Joe DeFilippo and Bill Lazor, who have shown to be good assets for Nick Foles. These two have they've had success with Foles. These are pretty much the only 2 coaches that have success with Nick Foles that were out in the open market. So fantastic pickup for Chicago. Good pickup for Nagy to get those guys in here. If anyone's going to help Nick Foles be successful, it's going to be those 2 guys. So it just makes sense. So will he struggle with the Bears? There's a possibility. He's done that when he's a week 1 starter. But also, this is the best case scenario for him. This is the best system he could possibly be in. I don't think we're going to see a problem with Nick Foles. I think we're going to see a couple incredible years with Nick Foles. If Nick Foles is a starter week 1, we may have gone from maybe we can make playoffs to we are a Super Bowl caliber team with Nick Foles. We don't need Aaron Rodgers. We don't need Patrick Mahomes. We need someone who can just be good enough to at least get the offense to score 2 or 3 touchdowns a game. That's really all we need because we have the defense who can stop opposing offenses. All we need is a quarterback who can get a first down instead of throwing a few incomplete passes. I'll give Trubisky this. He didn't throw an incredible amount of picks. He threw some really terrible passes, made some really bad decisions, but he wasn't Jameis Winston throwing 30 interceptions. But sadly, he wasn't Jameis Winston throwing 30 touchdowns. We need kind of somewhere in the middle there. Someone who's not going to throw or compromise, I should say. Someone who can throw touchdown passes but not throw picks. That could be Nick Foles. I'm excited to see the Bears this year in 2020. I like what Pace has been doing. If Jimmy Graham can work out, Pace is a genius. Pace is a wizard. But it's all riding on Nick Foles, Robert Quinn, and Jimmy Graham. Can 3 of these guys work out? 2 of the 3 can work out, then fine. But if 1 can work out, Pace, I'm sorry, but you might be heading out here at the end of 2020. I don't want to see it. I like what Pace has been doing. But you know what? At this point, he might deserve it. There's been some huge questions. He can't get the quarterback position right. We're kind of wasting this defense. So we'll see what Pace has done here. But I like what I've seen so far on paper. He has done a very, very good job. If Nick Foles can be good, if he can be like how he was with the Eagles, and give us a Super Bowl, if Quinn can be what we need him to be and just be a fantastic pass rusher opposite of Khalil Mack, and if Jimmy Graham can return to how he was with the Saints, the Bears will easily make the Super Bowl in 2020. I think it can happen. Let's see what will happen this year, guys. Because let's be honest, a lot of good things can happen here in Chicago. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments, any disagreements, anything you liked, please comment below. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a good rest of your day.